Okay, so welcome back to another Deep Dives. And today we're going to be talking about the Cosmere cinematic universe.
Right.
A big topic.
Huge.
I mean, especially if you're a Sanderson fan.
Oh, my gosh.
And we've got a really interesting source for this deep dive.
Yeah.
It is a YouTube video.
Okay.
And it's called Brandon Sanderson Came This Close.
Oh, wow.
To a Cosmere cinematic universe. So we're going to dive into that.
Awesome.
And talk about what the heck is going on with this Cosmere cinematic universe.
I'm so excited.
So, I mean, the title alone is pretty juicy.
Yeah, this close. Yeah. Like, how close are we talking here? From what I understand from the video, it sounds like it was more than just like a couple passing conversations, like Sanderson was.
Deep in talks with people about this.
Contracts were almost signed.
Yeah, it was really serious.
So before we get too far into it, for anyone listening who may not be familiar with Brandon Sanderson's work or like...
Right. Maybe needs a little refresher. What exactly is the Cosmere?
Okay, so the Cosmere, it's this like massive universe that Sanderson has created, and it encompasses most of his fantasy books. So we're talking like Mistborn, Stormlight Archive, Elantris, Warbreaker, all of these different worlds. They all exist within the same universe called the Cosmere.
Okay.
And they're connected in these really subtle ways. Like you might have characters that pop up in different books, or like little Easter eggs that hint at a larger connection. And then there's this underlying magic system that kind of ties everything together.
Yeah, it's like if you've read all the books, you start to see these little connections. You're like, wait a minute, this is all one thing.
Yeah, it's wild. Like one of the coolest examples I can think of is the character Hoyd.
Yes.
Have you run into him?
I have.
He pops up in the like almost all the Cosmere books. He's like this mysterious traveler who always seems to be around when important stuff is happening.
Right.
And it's not until you've read a few books that you start to realize, like, oh, this guy is more than just a background character. There's something really special about him.
Right. Like he's got a bigger purpose.
Exactly.
I mean, I think that's one of the biggest draws of the Cosmere is that it's so vast and interconnected, but also like kind of mysterious, and you have to really dig deep.
It's rewarding. It's like a treasure hunt for readers.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I guess like one of the big questions here is like, how do you translate that to the big screen? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Like, could you even do that justice in a movie or a TV show?
I mean, that's one of the challenges that they talk about in the video, right? Like, how do you balance you need to explain things to an audience who might not be familiar with the Cosmere, but also, like, not spoil the fun for the people who have read the books.
Right. And it's like... Those little connections are so rewarding.
Yeah, when you discover them yourself as a reader. But if they just like spell it out for you in a movie, it kind of loses some of it.
Right. Yeah, and then there's the whole issue of the magic systems.
Oh, yeah.
Like Sanderson's magic systems are notoriously...
They're so complex.
Complex and intricate. And like trying to visualize that on screen would be a huge challenge. Like imagine trying to explain allomancy to someone who's never... Read Mistborn. You know, or like the way surge binding works in Stormlight Archive. It's just...
It would be a lot to take in.
A lot of exposition.
Yeah, so the video also mentions that there were some legal hurdles that were preventing the Cosmere cinematic universe from happening.
Right.
Exactly. But you can imagine that with so many different books and characters and worlds, there's probably a lot of rights issues to sort out.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then on top of that, you have the creative differences that always come up.
When you're adapting a book series to film, like the author has a vision,
right? The studio has a vision, and sometimes those visions don't align.
Yeah. So I mean, it sounds like it was just like a perfect storm of challenges that ultimately led to the Cosmere cinematic universe not happening.
Right.
But it does make you wonder, like, what could have been, you know?
Totally.
What if they had found a way to make it work, you know? What
would it have looked like?
Yeah, I mean, like, do you think a cinematic universe is even the right approach?
Yeah.
For the Cosmere. You know what I mean? Like, would it be better to just start with like a standalone film based on one of the series and then like maybe hint at the wider Cosmere later on?
I think that's a really smart approach.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of what Marvel did with the early MCU movies. They started with Iron Man. And then they gradually introduced
other characters and storylines.
And it wasn't until like Avengers came out that it really became clear that this was all connected.
Right. Yeah. And I think that slow burn approach
works really well for building a cinematic universe. Oh, for sure. Because there's so much going on in those books.
Yeah. And then you've got Elantris.
Right. Which is kind of like a forgotten classic of the Cosmere. It's the first book that Sanderson published. And it's got a really unique premise.
Yeah. And then there's Warbreaker.
Oh, yeah.
Which is just like visually stunning with the whole color magic thing.
The color magic is amazing. I mean, can you imagine that on screen? It would be so beautiful.
Right. And the characters are so compelling.
Yeah, I mean, just so much potential in the Cosmere for adaptations.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to choose.
Yeah.
Like, where would you even start?
I mean, tough question, but it's a fun question.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of the point of this whole deep dive is that even though the Cosmere cinematic universe didn't happen, it's still fun to think about, what could have been.
To imagine.
The possibilities.
Totally.
I guess. The question for our listeners is, what would your ideal Cosmere cinematic universe look like? What stories would you want to see adapted? What characters would you want to see cast? I mean, let us know in the comments.
Yeah.
Let's have a discussion.
Because it's a fun topic.
It is.
It's one that we could talk about for hours.
Oh, yeah.
So thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Thanks for having me.
And we'll see you next time.
See you next time. Bye.